Karen, come on up here. Let's tell you about it. Welcome, Karen Sharpe Kramer, once again.
So how long had it been since you've seen that?
Since 1952. That was just around the corner, not very long ago, right?
Right, of course. I actually thought the movie was quite good, and you know, Cleo Moore, all the stuff about femme fatales. I mean, she seemed to be kind of caught in victim of circumstances. She was kind of a half-hearted fatale, and I guess as he made the movies and went on to Bait and My Neighbor's Wife, things got a little more lurid. But I thought it was a good story, a good movie. What do you remember of working with Hugo and being in the film?
I'm very impressed with Mr. Haas. He was a very serious artist, and I think what was said earlier about the fact that he was in the tradition of Orson Welles, I always thought that too. He was ahead of his time in many ways.
Absolutely.
And I think people that are that talented, who can write and produce, direct and act, many people in our industry like to get rid of those people. Why? Because how can we compete with that talent? And I think Mr. Welles had a terrible time in that area as well, and I think Mr. Haas suffered the same circumstance.
Right.
But he was very sweet, and he was very much in control of the film. And these kinds of films, the B movies we called them in those days, had very tight scripts. There was no waste of time, because the time that we had to make them, we had to fit into a very tight schedule.
Right.
And I think it brought out the best in many of us. I was rather green in this film because it was really my first film where I really had anything to do or anything really to say. So I look at it with horror sometimes and think, oh my God, but I was learning. And
you were good.
Oh,
you were good.
All right.
Come on.
But that year, 1952, was a very good year for me because I had done, as you mentioned earlier, someone mentioned about the sniper, the Sharpe Kramer. It was one line. And then I went on to MGM to do a film as Janice Rule's sister, younger sister. I think I had no lines. And then I got this role. And then this led to Bomba and the Jungle Girl. It was made like in 10 days. And then after that, I did a Racket Squad and a few other things. And then Silver Screen Magazine, which was a major, respected screen magazine, like Photoplay Magazine. And some of your historians will know what that means, but for you that don't, it was like the rag magazine, only clean. Gave me the Coming Star of Tomorrow Award, which helped me a great deal in my career, and that was all in 1 year. Many years later, after I was married to Stanley, and I had a dinner party sitting next to Walter Mirisch, the fabulous, well-known producer, did some many fantastic films. Said, Karen, he said, what was your first movie? You know, and I said, oh, well, Behind the Mighty. Of course, I said that because I got the Golden Globe for it. And he said, well, whatever happened to Bomba and the Jungle Girl? I said, oh my God, Walter, I said, how did you know I made that film? I don't talk about that very often. I said, how did you know that? And he said, because I produced it. Don't you remember?
You should have reminded Walter that he produced I Wouldn't Be in Your Shoes at Monogram. So.
Well, you know, we all have our beginnings, and
That's
we certainly
right.
had that.
You mentioned The High and the Mighty, great movie, and that was really a breakthrough for you, directed by the great Wild Bill Wellman.
And he was
Yes,
right. He was very expressive. I loved him, you know.
Give us a little Wild Bill Wellman.
Right, well, he scared me to death, actually. He was very scary. When I tested for The High and the Mighty, I got the script actually the night before because they were testing about 10 girls for The High and the Mighty for that part of Nell Buck, which I ended up getting. And when my agent, who was a wonderful agent, Leon Lance, he really got me started. They don't make agents like this anymore that I see, because he was just terrific. He didn't eat if I didn't work, so he really worked very hard. Anyway, he got me to an interview, and Andy McLaughlin was the assistant director.
Oh, yes.
He became a major director himself.
Son.
Yes, he was. And he said, you'd be great to play that part. I'm going to give you the sides to this role. And he said, be at Warner Brothers tomorrow morning at 7 o'clock for testing. So I said, great. So Mr. Wellman then comes back after his lunch. And he says, I found this girl, you know, this Karen Sharpe. He says, I beg your pardon. He did what? He said, I'm not testing anyone that I haven't seen. Are you out of your mind? You call her and you tell her not to show up tomorrow morning. So Mr. McLaughlin, you know, tried to call me, but we didn't have message services in those days. And I was out shopping looking for what I was going to wear for the test. And so I didn't get the call. And because I've always been early for everything I've ever done, he tried to call me the next morning. But I already left for the studio. So when I got there, I didn't know that I wasn't going to test. But as luck would have it, and I do believe in fate, the young lady who was going to test opposite John Smith, who got the role opposite me, had pulled out the night before. Her agent thought it wasn't going to get enough of money for her. So we had no one to test with. So they threw me in. I think they had 10 tests. I think we were number 8. And Mr. Wellman doesn't believe in rehearsing. He believes in talking through it. And then your first rehearsal is actually on film.
Yeah, he was known for taking rehearsals, filming that, and using
everything I did in that movie was the first time I'd ever done it. And when we finished the scene, he said, "Where have you been all this time?" He said, "You have got the part." And I thought, how great, but how terrible for all these other people who he's never going to see their tests. He gave me the part, and John the part, before we ever left the studio. So that was kind of a lucky strike.
So the moral of the story is, be on time. Be early. Don't be on time. Be early.
And don't answer your phone either.
Yeah.